Hello everyone, welcome back to the Executive Unscripted podcast. My name is Erica, and this episode is going to be a little different. Not because I don't have things to say, and I know I referenced a different topic in my previous episode, but because I'm going to let you in on the space I've been navigating behind the scenes lately. I know it's been a minute. I stepped back for a few weeks, not because I wanted to, but because life demanded it. Sometimes leadership pulls you into the kind of environments that require your full bandwidth just to hold things together. And you find yourself showing up just to keep the peace, managing things that are misaligned, and pouring energy into systems that were not built to support you in the first place. On top of your regular duties, right? The truth is, I've been in a fog. Not because I've lost passion or perspective, but because I've been swimming in dysfunction. And because dysfunction, when it gets loud enough and relentless enough, starts to wear on you. And it wears on even the strongest leaders. It slows down your decision making. It clouds your confidence. It makes you second guess what you've always known to be true. So that's where I'm at. This is going to be a vulnerable executive unscripted episode. But have you ever felt that, where it's not that you don't want to act in the dysfunction or about the dysfunction, it's just that you have been so exhausted by the chaos around you that clarity just feels miles away? And this just isn't a theory. A recent MIT Sloan study showed that emotional exhaustion has become the number one reason for executive level turnover. Why? Because we're operating in systems that reward image over integrity and tolerating dysfunction until something breaks. Usually it's the leader that breaks first. And as passionate as I am about leadership, reading that just broke my heart. Why on earth would the leader have to break before anything changes? So in my view, those are my definitions, research-based also definitions as to what I consider fog. You're present, but you're not fully clear. You're smart, but you're not sharp right now. You're moving, but not quite going forward. It's just like you're oscillating. And that's not a flaw in your leadership. That's a response to the systems and the people around you. But here's where it gets deeper. Dysfunction just doesn't slow down our decisions. It distorts the way we see ourselves and others. Some time ago, I read a book called Emotional Agility by psychologist Dr. Susan David, and it's very relevant to what we're talking about today. And she said that unprocessed emotions become the lens in which we see and interpret reality. And that hit me because when we're in the thick of dysfunction, whether it's regular drama, toxic leadership, or just relentless misalignment, we stop seeing clearly. We start interpreting everything through that fog that we're in. A neutral email feels like a threat. Silence feels like a trap. And hesitation feels like failure. So many different examples of what that might look like. And when we're in that state, we lose one of our most essential tools as a leader, and that's our internal compass. Our internal compass is swimming in that fog with us. Harvard Business Review also calls this decision fatigue loop. I've actually studied this a bit, not extensively, but I've studied this in peer-reviewed journals, and in this, you stop trusting your gut. You delay action. You second guess yourself into inaction. And one of my best friends, she always tells me, trust your gut. And in times like this, I tell her, I can't trust my gut. She's confused. She's not acting right now. And that only feeds the dysfunction further, because sadly, silence becomes a shield for bad behavior. So let's be real. Dysfunction thrives in confusion. And for those who deliberately set up dysfunction, love dysfunction, cause it or just are the root cause of it, you know what you're doing. You intentionally create confusion. And when people don't know who's leading, what's expected, or how decisions are made, it gives covers to those who want to manipulate the power. Those who are intentionally doing this, we're going to blow the lid on you, because the leaders who are fatigued, we're going to step forward and we're going to be better. We're going to be better than this. We're going to lock arms and take one step out of this fog together. And it creates a really frustrating tension. You know, you want to act, but you don't want to blow things up, or you don't want to seem like the troublemaker, right? You want to lead, but you're dodging politics. You want to speak, but the cost feels way too high. You're afraid, retaliation, harassment, bullying, whatever. And sometimes those costs just take that toll on your well-being as a leader. And if this resonates with you, you're not alone. And I want to assure you, you're not weak. You're just in the fog, and I'm right there with you. So what do you do when the people around you are spinning and the fog feels like it's never going to lift? Here's what I want to offer to you today. A few practices that I've come back to. They're not magical, but they kind of anchor me. They get me grounded again. And the first one is to ask. And you're going to ask yourself what is actually true right now in this moment. Not what you fear, not what was said, but ask yourself what's true, what's observable, and what's factual. This kind of pulls you out of any emotional fog or emotional spiraling you might be in and centers your reality. Kind of gives you something to focus on. Secondly, separate ego from wisdom. Ask yourself, am I hesitating because I'm scared or because I'm wise enough to pause? Sometimes your strategy is silence, but sometimes that silence can be self-betrayal. So I need you to know the difference. Sit with that for a little bit. Also, lastly, use the no fear frame. And I love this one. And I often sit and take a deep breath and I ask myself, if I could lead today with no fear, zero fear of retaliation or misunderstanding, zero misconceptions or ill perceptions, what would you do? What would you say? How would you show up? How would you act? And even if you don't take the action, the clarity in the answers to those questions is usually your next step. A bonus. I actually do like to use external feedback, but use it sparingly and wisely. And I do use external feedback from the people I trust the most. Honestly, my best friends. Too many opinions can cloud your intuition further. So ask those trusted peers or mentors and ask them to hold a mirror up when your judgment feels foggy. A study by Forbes noted that leaders who consistently seek quality feedback build resilience faster than those who internalize their stress in silence. That's a big one. As you know, I sit on the Forbes Nonprofit Council, and it's been such a rewarding experience to share my knowledge with other leaders and nonprofit leaders for the greater world, to read how we manage and navigate these challenges. And this is such a brilliant study because it shows just how internalizing your emotions as a leader, the cost of what that looks like. But when we humble ourselves in our purpose and why we're here and why we're leading the way we lead and seeking that feedback, we become that much more resilient. And I think that's just such an incredible piece there. And I need to also set a reminder, and it's not just for all of you, it's for me too. And I'm here to remind all of you too, those who are building their resiliency, that this fog isn't forever. It feels endless, like it's never going to lift, but we know that's not true. It's a season. It's the system's friction meeting your clarity. Remember that. It's the price of being someone who actually cares. The price of being someone who cares in rooms that historically and typically reward self-preservation over service or being in service to others. And I promise you this, the leaders who come out of fog stronger are the ones who resist the temptation to just go numb. And I can't tell you how many times I've had to battle just going numb. And going numb is just self-preservation at that point, right? So we stay awake, we stay honest, and we don't let the dysfunction make us forget who we are. You can lead from the fog. You just have to lead from truth and not reaction. So this episode was raw. I didn't script it. Like I usually have an outline of what I'd like to talk about, and I pull up studies that are relevant, and I like to have facts behind me and pull up some potential readings that all of you might like to read or share in. And this one just hit me today, and I had to record, and I had to share with all of you the space that I'm in. And if you're feeling like your confidence has been shaken, your voice stifled, or your sanity tested by people who were never trained to lead in the first place, stay with me, because we're going to expose them, and we're going to be better leaders. We're going to flush those ones out. Mark my words. Because if you're listening to this, you already want to be better. If you're listening to this, you are looking for ways to be a better person, a better leader, to be transformative. And that is my purpose. And that is how I wish to lock arms with all of you and just be better. And I'll say it again, just be better. And I don't care how many times, how redundant I sound. And then let's just, again, lock arms and step out of this fog, one step at a time, one grounding step at a time. So again, this was an extremely vulnerable episode for me, and thank you for listening. Next week, I'm going to be starting my series, Boards Behaving Badly. And this just isn't for nonprofit boards, also corporate boards, trustees of institutions, any group or body of persons that govern over an institution, organization. That's what I'm going to be talking about, because I've had enough. I recently heard, and I've seen it firsthand, of these talented, extraordinary, visionary people being driven out by toxic board leadership. And we're going to blow the lid on that. Like I said, it's not just nonprofits, it's for-profits too, and people who govern institutions, universities or what have you. There's many governing bodies over organizations, and we're going to talk about it. And until then, breathe, trust yourself, and remember, you don't have to wait for this fog to fully clear to take one grounded step forward. I'm right there with you. You just have to lead from who you are, not what others expect. And so I will be talking to you in the next episode of Executive Unscripted. Once again, my name is Erica, and we'll talk next week.